Across every civilization on Earth, from the deserts of the Middle East to the mountains of Greece and the rivers of China, people described the same kinds of beings. Dragons, giants, hybrid creatures, and divine animals that walked the earth long before we understood the world around us. These stories are too widespread, too detailed, and too consistent to be dismissed as simple imagination. Something was seen, something was remembered, and something was feared. Dragons, for example, aren't just characters in fairy tales. The Bible itself uses the word dragon in multiple translations. In the original Hebrew, terms like Leviathan, Tannin, and Rahab describe enormous serpent-like beings that existed in God's creation. In the book of Job, Leviathan is described as a creature no weapon can pierce, a beast that breathes smoke with scales that shield it like armor. Job isn't writing a fantasy novel. He's describing something his culture believed was real, something God himself mentions as an example of the raw power embedded in creation. If we move across the ancient world, the same pattern emerges. Mesopotamian tablets describe Tiamat, the sea dragon of chaos. The Egyptians tell of Apep, the giant serpent who battles the sun god every night. The Greeks speak of Python, Typhon, and Layton. The Chinese speak of the long-wise, powerful sky serpents who controlled water and storms. These civilizations had no contact, no shared texts, and no internet. Yet the creatures are the same. Enormous serpents, winged reptiles, cosmic beasts of power and destruction. So the real question isn't, did dragons exist? It's, why did everyone remember them the same way? Many scholars believe ancient people found dinosaur fossils and turned them into stories. But that doesn't explain the living creature behavior described across cultures. The biblical descriptions and the mythic ones often go beyond biology. Leviathan isn't just a creature. It represents chaos itself. In the book of Psalms, God is described as crushing the heads of the sea monsters. In Isaiah, he slays the twisting serpent, the dragon in the sea. These passages connect to a deeper belief that before order was established, creation was filled with beings unlike anything we know today, powerful, dangerous, and ancient. But dragons aren't the only creatures remembered across the world. Hybrid beings, half human and half animal, appear in nearly every ancient culture as well. And yes, the Bible also hints at unusual beings that walk the earth. Especially in Genesis 6, when the sons of God came to the daughters of men, producing beings called the Nephilim. These giants were not normal humans. They were something else, something mixed, something part heavenly, part earthly. Look at Greece. Centaurs, half man and half horse. Satyrs, half man and half goat. Egypt. Anubis, half man and half jackal. Babylon. Lamassu human heads, animal bodies, wings of eagles. Even ancient Israel, in its temple, had carvings of cherubim, not chubby angels, but composite beings with wings and faces of lions, eagles, and bulls. The spiritual world, according to the Bible, is populated with beings that are nothing like what modern art portrays. So again, the question is why humanity remembers so many hybrid forms, and why the oldest stories describe a world full of them. Some researchers believe centaurs were based on early sightings of horse riders, tribes who lived constantly on horseback. But that explanation falls apart when you realize centaur stories describe creatures with a single body, not a human riding an animal. And beyond Greece, the hybrid creatures multiply. Mermaids, minotaurs, sphinx, goatmen, birdwomen, lion-headed warriors, and serpent-tailed queens. These aren't one region's stories. They're global. The Bible's mention of strange beings gives a spiritual explanation. Genesis 6 describes a moment when heaven and earth intersected in a way never intended. If that moment produced giants, the Nephilim, could it also have produced other combinations? The book of Enoch, though not in the Bible, goes further. It claims fallen heavenly beings taught humans forbidden knowledge and corrupted creation itself. If this is true, then myths of hybrid creatures may be memories of a world before the flood. A world the Bible says was filled with violence, corruption, and beings that should never have existed. Even after the flood, the stories continue. God tells Israel that certain nations had giants. David faces Goliath. Joshua faces tribes described as tall as cedars. These beings weren't normal. They were leftovers, remnants of something older. Across cultures, there is a repeating belief. These creatures belong to an earlier age, closer to the beginning of creation, when the lines between spiritual, physical, and animal realms were not yet firm. So what happened to these beings? Why don't we see them today? Some may have gone extinct. Some may have belonged entirely to the spiritual realm, appearing only in rare encounters that became the seeds of legends. And some may even survive today in forms we don't fully understand, deep in the ocean or hidden in forests. But the deeper truth is this: humanity remembers a world far stranger, far wilder, and far more divine than the world we see today. Dragons, centaurs, giants. These memories echo across cultures because they're rooted in something real, something from the early chapters of creation. The Bible tells us that the world before the flood was unlike anything we know. The spiritual realm was closer. The boundaries were thinner. People today look at myths and say, that's impossible. But ancient humans looked at the world and said, this is what we saw. Maybe the world was stranger than we think. And maybe the stories of dragons and hybrid creatures aren't a fantasy, but memories of a world we're only beginning to rediscover. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more.